Welcome. I know it's been a long day, very inspiring day, but a long day. But we're gearing up for our closing session for the day, and I promise it's going to be very inspiring. So if you could please take your seats, and we'll begin as soon as possible. This closing session will be followed by drinks and networking, so something else to look forward to. Super. How are we feeling? Super tired? All right, there you go. Team Act for the win. Brilliant. So I always feel there's nothing like a little bit of music to get people's spirits up. And then on that note, a little reminder and a little energizer. Indeed. We do believe everyone can be a co-founder of social change. And on that note, welcome everyone to a conversation that I am personally very passionate about having with as many people as possible. I'm Alankrita, I'm the brand director at ACT, and I'll be hosting this session that features a keynote address by one of India's leading philanthropists, followed by a fireside chat between two of India's most incredible founders. Now, a lingering thought that I continue to grapple with is that just because we're not in wartime doesn't mean that there is peace. The pandemic was one of the biggest humanitarian crises the world had ever seen and dealt with together. But while its impact has been receding, India continues to struggle with a lot of other emergent issues that are just as critical and need to be solved. Not tomorrow, today. Education, public healthcare, gender inequity, climate action, poverty and livelihoods, to name just a few. We have so many incredible individuals and organizations out there who are doing everything that they can to change the status quo and catalyze change. But I think that everybody in this room deeply recognizes the fact that for us to witness such change at scale and in our lifetimes, collaboration is key. ACT saw that during COVID. We saw VCs, startup founders, social entrepreneurs, NGOs, think tanks, government officials, philanthropists, all came together with a shared purpose and a shared vision to significantly move the needle. I would also go so far as to say that unlikely yet meaningful partnerships, especially between a diverse set of stakeholders, can bolster the impact of philanthropic intentions. To me, we've operated in silos for far too long, and now is the time to accelerate collective action. With that, it's my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Ashish Dhawan, a serial entrepreneur who has founded and led formidable organizations like Chris Capital, Ashoka University, the Convergence Foundation. He's a passionate philanthropist who also serves on the global board of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Ashish, if you could join us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I just thought I'll talk a little bit about my own journey and my belief in collaboration and how we can all work together for social change in our country over the next few decades. So I left the corporate world 11 years ago. I had no clue what I was getting into. I wanted a second career. I was very passionate about education and worked on two projects initially. The first is to build Ashoka University, and the second was to we started an organization called Central Square Foundation to work on K-12 education. Ashoka today has grown up to be a full-scale university, 200 founders, 2,500 crore raised. It's a leading institution now. And frankly, it couldn't have happened without the power of the collaborative. There's no way I as an individual or Sanjeev Bikhchandani or Pramod Sinha or any one of us alone could have done this. I think the only way this was possible is because so many people came together. It was the only way it was possible because we had a founding group of faculty who came together. And then many others who joined in. And now we're bolting our startups on that platform. We started 15 centers in the last 5 years alone, where faculty are entrepreneurs and each one has its own funding and stuff like that. Central Square Foundation started with the model initially of being more sort of grant making, doing early stage grant making, etc. We made about 40 grants, and so we believed in the power of really social entrepreneurs being able to do amazing things, which we would not be able to do ourselves. And it allowed us really to learn from the ecosystem. I think we quickly realized that beyond, there's one thing missing. NGOs do great work. They're really good at innovation, which the government can't do. But there wasn't enough evidence, so you needed to build more evidence about what was working. But somewhere there was a translational muscle that was missing, that there was great work being done. The amazing thing for me was when I saw that Room to Read, which is a fantastic global organization, in Madhya Pradesh, in one of the most tribal districts, in Bharwani district, had shown outstanding results in foundational literacy and numeracy. By the end of second grade, children reading at 28 words per minute, in the treatment group, in the control group at 12 words per minute. I mean, stunning results. No one in the state government knew about it. The state didn't seem to care. I mean, we took them to the chief minister. We eventually got it embedded and made it a state program, and Mission Ankur was launched, and it eventually went to scale. And that's when I realized that one of the key roles we can play is, apart from the innovation, building evidence, is really getting this connected to take it to scale and make it sustainable. And so what became Mission Ankur in MP then became Mission Prerna, which Gaurav, who's here from Samagra, worked with us on, in Haryana, many other states, and then eventually became a national mission. And now CSF works in 12 states on the national mission. So I think the idea of collaboration with government is something we learned through that journey. Apart from collaborating with social entrepreneurs, the idea of collaborating with government, the idea of seeing what's the missing gap as well. Why is this not translating, where there's this great innovation, but it's not getting embedded into the system, and what is that translational muscle? And that's where I think organizations like Samagra and others play an important role as well, in terms of being able to take change, codify it, embed it into the system, learn how to work with government, etc. I think there have been a lot of experiments also in terms of working with the private sector. It's been harder, to be honest, but I think there are now so many folks working at with sort of India 3 or Bharat, that there's really, which wasn't the case maybe a decade ago when I first started, that there's really an opportunity to leverage the corporate sector as well, the for-profit sector, and see what could be done there. So, through that journey, I sort of realized that why am I doing this? What's the purpose? I think that's one of the things I was asked to speak about. And really for me, it is that I want India to be a developed nation in the next 20 years. And, at the end of the day, beyond everything else, we all work on multiple areas. It's really economic growth that's the single biggest thing. We are at a per capita income of $2,500 in nominal terms, almost $8,000 in PPP terms. If we can get to $25,000, $30,000 in PPP terms, most of our basic problems will be solved, because per capita income till about $30,000 is like got a 0.9, actually a higher than 0.9 R squared correlation with human development. So education, health, all of this will improve. So that's when I got interested in saying, apart from working on education or health, what I call track 2 development, things that have a long lead time in terms of impacting economic growth, how can foundations, how can philanthropy look at core economic growth, the engine of economic growth? Can philanthropy look at areas like women's economic empowerment or science and tech, or many other areas, labor-intensive exports? many areas that I think will be necessary. Beyond the startup ecosystem, which is one world, there are many other levers that will drive India's growth in the next 10 years. So that's something that at least I've gotten interested in. I don't think there's enough philanthropic work in this area, so it's a much ignored area. So, but at the end of the day, even in that model, I think it's very much about partnering with the for-profit sector, partnering with industry associations, partnering with government to make it happen. So I believe that at the end of the day, what we're doing in the social sector and the philanthropic sector is a drop in the ocean. What we spend in education is millions of dollars. The government spends $90 billion. The markets in many of these areas spend even more. The real question is, will that drop in the bucket or in the ocean be able to create a wave in the ocean or not? I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to be a catalyst, trying to find that Archimedes lever at every point in time. And ultimately, the behemoth can't innovate. It's really social entrepreneurs who can innovate. It's leaders in the social sector who will drive change. And that's the upstream work. And then eventually it can go downstream to get codified into government, into markets, elsewhere. So I think the work that ACT is doing is so fundamental. I remember Mohit and I had this coffee at Amor Bistro some 4+ years ago, and he had this idea of harnessing the power of the ecosystem. And then I know COVID hit and many of you all got together and did amazing things. And I'm just so delighted at what ACT has been able to do. I mean, it's really a force. I think this is only the beginning. And what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years will be many multiples of what we've seen in the last few years. So thank you for inviting me and best of luck for the future.
Thank you so much, Ashish. In fact, something you just said about private philanthropy being almost like just a drop in the ocean, it reminds me of something I read in a recent philanthropy report by Dasra and Bain and Company that said that the need for private philanthropy for us to be able to advance UN's SDG goals by 2030 is almost unparalleled. We're not there yet, and we do need to be able to get there. That India's first-generation entrepreneurs have infinite potential to reshape the giving culture in India, beyond just money, into something that can truly help build the nation. And on that, please join me in welcoming Abhiraj Bhal, the co-founder of unicorn startup Urban Company, the largest tech-enabled home services platform in Asia, who was deeply involved with ACT during the COVID-19 pandemic and continues to be a supporter of the organization. P.S. He asked me to say that. Abhiraj, please come on board. And Divya Jain, a 2-time social entrepreneur, then the co-founder of Seekho, an edtech startup that upskills India's youth to find their dream job, and Safe Educate, an upskilling platform for logistics, who deeply believes that technology can drive social impact at scale. Come on over, Divya. So I have to jump into this question right away, right? Abhiraj, you were a very integral part of ACT's COVID efforts. In fact, you continue to be a part of the ACT for Women Advisory Council. Divya, you're a part of our ACT for Education Investment Committee, and these are just the ones that I know of. Can you share with us or give us a glimpse of what are some of the philanthropic initiatives that you've been immersing yourself in so far, big or small, in or outside of your organizations? What are some of the things that you are dabbling into? But more importantly, what makes you do it? What makes you or fuels you to continue to invest that time in such initiatives?
Honestly, not a lot. So, I must confess that I'm very new to ACT was perhaps one of the first things which at some scale I got involved in, and for a while it consumed meaningful percentage of my time and energy, and it was just driven by the fact that seeing the pandemic unfold, one knew that it was a very historical event in one's life, and you did not want to sit on the sidelines and watch. We were all in a place of great privilege, being able to sit at our homes and work from home, but for the large masses, it was it was a very, very unfortunate event. And I'm very proud of the work that we did, particularly in the second wave. I think the way the team rallied together. At one point, I think we had more than 200 volunteers, and the speed with which we could create that change and impact was phenomenal. There were, 40,000 plus concentrators that got deployed in under 3 months. We weren't sure whether we were going to be able to raise the money, for paying for these concentrators, but we needed to pay the vendors. So, people put in their own money and backstop with the balance sheet of their companies. So it was a magical time. I think, war times have the ability to pull in people together and just remove all the friction and alignment issues, because there's only one goal. Since then, not a lot. We run a small fund, welfare fund for our service professionals. Most of the, I think of Urban Company in many ways as it is a for-profit company, but I'm also proud of the work we do for our service partners and upgrading their lives. So we train them. Most of them see a multiplier effect in their income. We also do a lot around social security benefits, healthcare, insurances. Essentially, the idea is how can we give our service professionals a respectful, dignified class life. So right now, all my energy and focus is there, and few flirtations here and there with other things, just to learn.
So, I mean, what compels you to do that? Even the work that you're talking about within Urban Company, the flirtations that you're having, what is it that inspires you to even do this at a very fundamental level?
Not a lot. I mean, if something interests me and, if I can contribute in a small way, then I'll do it. But there's no grand plan at this point in time. If there is a grand plan, that's Urban Company, and that takes 99% of the energy. Yeah.
What about you, Divya?
So I'll be honest. I'm Marwari. I'm born and brought up in a very traditional, family where I've always seen business around me. My grandfather used to run this organization called Jaipur Foot. So as a child, we were, this is an artificial limb. So if you've lost a limb, Jaipur Foot would give you a limb. So as a child, you could get 1 foot for 500 rupees. And I lived in a big joint family, and there used to be a competition. The number of limbs that you could put in the year, that grandchild would be the favorite grandchild of the family. So that was literally my introduction into philanthropy. But it wasn't philanthropy, it was a competition on who can win first. And to be honest, I think that's me even now. I mean, when you talk about philanthropy or charity, and I don't want to, and I'm probably going to be judged for saying this, but as a business person, charity is a bad word. It's something that you do on the side. And I feel like everything that I've done is being driven by need. And when I look at, any philanthropic initiative that has come my way or what I've been involved with, I think it's about identifying a need that needs to be met, and how do you get the right resources to fulfill it. So, I just read the definition of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the relentless pursuit of a purpose, irrespective of the resources that you have. Tomorrow, if Abhiraj wants to create Urban Clap, he will do that, irrespective of the fact that he doesn't have the money. He will go raise that money from private equity and create an organization that does that. And for me, that is the same mindset when it comes to philanthropy. So there are 2 things that I feel I am passionate about. The first is skill development, and the second is women, and equality for women and women in leadership. And I'll spend just 2 minutes talking about each. So if I talk about skill development, and my company Safe Educate, we run a skilling company that works to skill people in logistics and supply chain, and that again comes from a place of need. You're in a sector where 2 out of 10 trucks lie vacant in the country because we don't have truck drivers. We run a large supply chain company which can't grow because it doesn't have the right manpower. And that really created Safe Educate, where we've now partnered with organizations. We worked with CSR funds. We have worked with government organizations. But the ultimate purpose is to skill someone. So yes, we're getting someone livelihood, jobs, but at the other end, we're also meeting a corporate need. So if you can connect that, I feel that for me has been my driving force. And the second one is, of course, women in leadership. I think and again, this is not something that I aspired for, but it's something that came to me, is, even like, and honestly, this room is fantastic because it's way more representative of women than any other room that I've been in. And even here, we are a minority, right? So, and thank you so much. This room is probably like literally the most advanced. So I think that's something that is, I am passionate about, and that's something I work with, whether it is with ACT, whether it is with other organizations. I'm working back with YFlow and multiple organizations to promote this as an idea.
I mean, I think something I'm hearing from both of you is that purpose and intent is very important at the end of the day. And you can start small, you can dabble in certain things, you want to find out what resonates with you, what doesn't. It can help you build that path of scaling that big Everest, of which you may not have visibility today, but it's like a step forward. But the fact is, you both are startup founders, and being a startup founder is an all-consuming job. Like, there is no off button, there's no off switch, right? There are always burning business priorities on the table. I think for those founders or for those entrepreneurs who may be a few steps behind where you guys are in the philanthropic journey, where they're just starting to think about, how do I approach social impact? How do I approach philanthropy? What is it that I can do? What would be your nudge to such founders? Like, what are some low-hanging fruits that they can think of? How can they structure their approach? What would be your advice?
ACT is a good starting point for them to come together and contribute.
I'm not making him say this, so yay.
But I guess, many of us, including me, at some point, we feel like, hey, let us earn the money first, and then we will start giving it away. Yeah, it's a very classical way of thinking about life. Like, let me wear my oxygen mask first, and then I'll give it away. There are two problems with giving away in any shape and form. One is, it's very hard, right? So while you imagine that you'll amass all this wealth and then give it away, I think it is genuinely hard to part. And so making a start is always helpful. Yeah. Two, it's hard because, I mean, firstly, you have to come to terms with the idea of giving it away, which in itself is hard. Yeah. But I don't know of anyone who has, walked out of this life with their money. So at least at a first principles level, it's clear that you can't carry it with you. So you have to do something with it, and it's probably better to give it away than to spoil your kids with it. But two, I think, when you get to a point where you want to give away, it's not very easy to give away. And there's so many initiatives, so many organizations, so much that is happening. So I think starting small and learning is important. And even if you decide eventually that, like, my framework is, even if I decide that I don't want to give away most of it, at least along the way, whatever little contributions I'm doing, like every small act of effort matters. So I'm very clearly not at the point in my life where I want to devote a significant amount of time, energy, or the resources that I have to philanthropy. But I don't want to lose complete touch. Yeah. I want to keep like a little bit of that fire burning in some shape and form. And remain connected purely out of my own selfish interest of learning with the ecosystem. So that if and when I get to a point of meaningfully giving away, like, I am able to make more informed and intelligent decisions around it. Yeah, that's broadly how I think
starting small and trying a lot of things,
starting
keeping
like
in touch.
Maybe super small, and with people that you trust. And that's why I ACT, because I've seen the people who have created this organization. I think the the mindset that they have, the way they approach problem solving, and it resonates with me. These people are highly trustworthy people, and so I would, for those who are thinking, how to, ACT is a great starting point. It has many different platforms which one can associate with, from climate change to education to healthcare to women in leadership to livelihood. So it's all there.
Divya, what about you?
Right, so yes, please start with ACT. No, I agree. I think I resonate with Abhiraj when he says that I think you need to start small, start with what's available. And I think when you look inside, and I think even for ACT, and I will say this on behalf of the whole team, it's just not about the money. Contribute with your time. Contribute with your solution. Contribute with whatever you can. So I think at some level, we in our mind we think कि अच्छा जब तक हम check नहीं लिखेंगे तब तक हम involved नहीं हो सकते. So I think that's the first nudge that I will give to everyone out here. It's not about the money, and I think that is something that will be raised, can be raised. The first thing is just getting involved in any way possible. The second nudge that I will say is, change the mindset in terms of, of course, it's not just resources, it's time. The minute you're involved, right, it is something that you own. So again, it's not about 100, 200, 500, like it's not about the amount. So I will say even in your organizations, if you are looking at social change, it can't be about one person moving ahead. You want to take everyone together. So if there is a corporate project that you want to work with, I would strongly recommend get the entire team to contribute. And that could be as little as 500 or 100 rupees a month. Because once they're in, it's their skin in the game. It's their project also. So I think creating that sense of ownership is very important for everyone. Mackin just said this outside, what is the skin in the game? So for every social project, for any philanthropic project, can we get people's skin in the game? And third, do things that are possible around you, right? I think we keep looking for that mountain that we're going to create. That Ashoka universities that hopefully we will look and count. And yes, we need 5,000 more Ashoka universities for India as a country. But start small. Start with basic policies. For women, do you have the right transportation for women to get to work or not? I mean, are you taking care of just the welfare of the staff around you, right? Do you have that? I mean, I'll give you a very simple example, and this is about women at work. The most important thing of having a woman working, and especially at the blue or the grey collar level, is the first 3 months. अगर आपने एक लड़की को, and this is in Rajasthan, we've done experiments, कि for 3 months you manage them and kept them employed gainfully, they will be a part of the formal employment system. Can you ensure that the policies in your organization are enabling a diverse workforce? And I think that is a great place to start.
I mean, in fact, I remember something I heard somewhere where I'm forgetting the name of the speaker, but they said philanthropy is not equal to charity. The two things are quite different, right? So philanthropy is a lot of things which includes time, which includes expertise, which includes investment, just your mental and emotional investment in a particular cause. And that to me was quite eye-opening. This was many years ago. But from a philanthropy perspective, from everything that you folks have seen and observed, whatever, not only what you have done, but also what you have seen and observed in the ecosystem around you. When I think of philanthropic collaboration, I mean, one, it's tough. It's not easy to do. And for the two of you, collaboration is not just what you do in philanthropic pursuits, it's something you do in your own startups as well, right? It's a very active part of your everyday life. But from what you've observed in the philanthropy ecosystem, with the organizations that you work with, or with what you do within your organizations as well, what is like one key lesson or an insight that you've had about what makes for good collaboration?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think I would say one is definitely small, lean teams, which have a single-minded pursuit. I think when you have too many people, they solve for alignment. small team which has just one goal, I think it solves for progress. So I think collaboration is important, but it is equally important that even within philanthropy, like we approach well-defined, clear problems with clear objectives and empower very, very small teams to go accomplish them.
Yeah.
I'd say that's definitely one. Two, something that we have seen at ACT and also in our own organization is leveraging technology wherever possible. I think over the next 15, 20 years, and I think we briefly talked about it, I think all aspects of our life are going to be deeply impacted by technology. And I don't think I fully understand yet how much of a change lever it is. But I think in the world of philanthropy, I do think there can be a lot more technology that we can leverage. And one can sometimes view it as saying that, yes, technology and startups, there's a space for them to impact certain aspects of our life, but then it doesn't work in other areas. I would I would question and urge people to think and reimagine that notion, because if we want solutions to scale and to truly create impact and change at scale, I think surely human beings can't do it. Yeah. It's very, very difficult to scale systems with humans. And I know this because we have a fleet of 52,000 people that we manage every single day. It's extremely difficult. And if we didn't have technology at the backbone of every single part of our business, we just wouldn't be able to do it. So, and we are in a very small, we are creating very small impact in a very small sector in the scheme of things in the country. Many of the founders here are attacking much bigger problems around education, healthcare, and climate. So I think technology, and so if you really have to collaborate, I would say collaborate with technology and see how you can leverage that. So small teams, lean teams, which are very focused, leveraging technology, I think those are sort of my two inputs.
What do you feel, Divya?
So again, definitely I think when I'm looking at philanthropy and examples of philanthropy and just about success, I think what I would really talk about would be localization and understanding, local challenges, regions, solving for them, and then looking at scale. Right? So I think, like it's what you said. I think it's also what Ashish said. What we're doing is a drop in the bucket. Will this wave really create a tsunami? But often we're so concerned about the tsunami that we ignore the wave itself. What we have to understand is that we live in a large country. Right? We are 1/5 of the countries of the world's population today. Each state is its own microcosm. Each state is its own ecosystem itself. So when we're looking at solutions, I think we need to regionalize them. So I think even at Seekho, if we look at the technology that we're running, a huge part of it is, can you regionalize, can you create solutions that is creating localized solutions? Udemy nahi chalta hai at some point, right? You need a different solution for a UP or a Bihar or a Bengal. And again, like Abhiraj said, I think now is a beautiful time in the history of mankind because we can actually use technology to create personalized solutions. So I think just to add, I think not just is technology going to change the way we're running social impact, but the personalization of technology, where I can personalize it to that person in Bihar, whether it's a woman or a girl, because the solution for sabse badi beti versus second beti versus teesra beta is completely different. And I think this allows us to do this. So in any, again, just resonating, start small, localize, create small impact, and then look at scaling it to the right place, right solution.
Both of you actually bring up technology quite strongly. In fact, one of our earlier sessions in the morning, where one of our social entrepreneurs who works in the field of education, he said that, you know, when I look at the corporate sector, the first thing I wanted to do, or the private sector, the first thing I wanted to do was learn how are they streamlining this so much better than we are, we as in the public sector. Now, when you talk about technology, and these are your perspectives, these are some very valuable inputs that I think that the public sector can gain. What is it, like, what could help the public sector collaborate with the private sector better, more efficiently, more meaningfully, so that these perspectives we are able to bring into the fold even more and then be able to create impact that is meaningful at the end of the day? What do you think we should start thinking about to build those collaboration pathways?
These are some really hard questions, Alankrita. I must acknowledge that these are not easy questions to answer. And I don't want to sound as if, you know, I've deeply thought about them and I have ready-made solutions. But I think in the private sector, each of us as organizations are grappling with some problem that is very core to our organization and we cannot independently solve it, right? So let me give you an example. One of the things we struggle with today is credit to help new service professionals get onboarded onto the platform, and 40% of the people that we onboard are women, and many of these women are single mothers, broken families, etc. To get onboarded, they need to buy a kit, they need to go through training, etc. 90, 95, sometimes 100% of the training is subsidized by us, but we can't subsidize the kit. So it's a small loan, typically between 15 to 30,000, with 3 to 6 months of duration. Delinquency rates are near zero. One would imagine that this would be a solved problem in a country which has the best financial institutions, so many banks, so many NBFCs. It's been a struggle. With our leverage, our scale, our access to every single bank in the country, every single NBFC in the country, even today, we have to cut that from our balance sheet. And it's a small example of, you know, a real problem that is and a lot of women as a result are not able to, you know, come through because our NBFC partners will have, you know, prior credit limits. Many of them may not have credit worthiness, so any credit score to start with, right? They're informal before they're joining. I can tell you like 5 such problems. You know, my second biggest problem today is one, you know, our biggest cost center is training. We have gone from on existing high quality service professionals to people who need to be skilled and upgraded to now skilling people from scratch. And that ideally should not be something we are doing, right? We are running 250 training centers today in the country, training people who have no prior background in the trade into these tradesmen, into these beauticians, and it's a huge cost and a huge expense for us. And I would love to collaborate with people who want to be part of the skilling ecosystem and who can take this up as a challenge, and we'll pay for it, right? Because, I mean, you know, I've had to build these rails, but it's not the core business that I am in. I'm not in the business of training. I'm not in the business of giving out a loan. So these are 2 problems in my own business. These are core to my scale-up journey and core to my existence. If there is an organization out there that is solving these problems, which I don't believe are my core business problems, you know, I would be happy to partner with them and actually provide the technology, provide the initial resources, provide our mental bandwidth and time and energy to help them grow. And we do come across such organizations from time to time, but I think if you want to collaborate with the private sector organization, you'll have to hit the problem at the heart of what is one of their top 2-3 problems.
Yes.
Going to the CSR arm, and you know, we have that CSR arm as well, right? We do, like, it's okay, but it's not really going to, you know, beyond a point, move the needle, right? So like we have 52,000 service partners. They have tens of problems. 20,000 of them are women. We've just started partnering with an NGO which is helping many of these women, which are single mothers and from broken families, deal with domestic violence. We don't have that skill set. We don't have that capability. But when we polled the 20,000 women on our platform, we realized that a sizable percentage of them go through domestic violence or are going through domestic violence today. So all of these are opportunities.
Which I think exist on both sides, for the public sector to look at, for the
100%.
private sector, and yes, absolutely. What about you, Divya?
So I have actually the opposite side of what Abhiraj is saying. I think as startups, we're always in a hurry. We wanted everything done yesterday. Today is already too late. One of the things that we need to understand as founders is you want to build an enduring company. You're not building this for today. You're working for today, but whatever I'm building Seekho. At least I genuinely believe that for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? And I think any collaboration that you're looking at, any collaboration that I decide today, especially with the public sector, it's like planting a sapling. It's planting a sapling that is going to grow into a tree. And I think one of the first things we need to do when we talk about collaboration as founders with the public sector, we need to look at the timelines that we are looking at. Right, we talk about the skilling sector. I started working with the skilling ecosystem, with the PMO and with NSDC in 2013 when it was set up. And I think in the past 10 years, they've done phenomenal work. We've got NSQFs across, multiple sectors. We made 600 NSQFs. They're like, ye bahut zyada ho gaya. Then we reduced them, right? So you have to understand the Indian education system. It's taken 60 years. It started in even if we talk about 1947, it's gone through 70 years. And now we're talking about it's not getting the right graduates or MBAs, etc., or we're producing the best doctors. The Indian skill ecosystem is just 10 years old, and I think it's done phenomenal work. So I think collaboration is very important. For your companies, there's a lot of opportunity that is being created every day. So like Abhiraj is saying, there's a lot of opportunity in skilling itself or in providing loans to these companies, and these are great holes for startups to come in and fill in. In logistics, we have loans for every truck driver. There's a loan that you get. He buys the truck for 3 years, and after 3 years, he gets to own his truck. So in the past 20 decades, we have over 5,000 entrepreneurs we've created just by handing out these loans. This is a great opportunity for startups to come in and plug in. And this maybe comes to the first question that you started with, and the theme that Ashish started with is collaboration. Philanthropy, charity, giving back, it's about collaboration, and you can't look at this in isolation. I can't look at it as Urban Clap, I can't look at it as Seekho, but I can look at it as a whole. Hey, this is the ecosystem, this is where the education system is, these are the gaps, this is the gaps Seekho can help fill in, this is the people that Urban Clap can employ. And you know what, these are the things we can tell the government to change the policy. And I will, and this is something that I talk from experience, is that the government is looking for people to come and give them recommendations. And at some, at some point, it is literally your responsibility to go out there and at least tell them what you want. आप बताओगे नहीं तो वो समझेंगे कैसे कि हमें क्या policy बनानी है. So be a part of the solution, right, versus the problem. If you are facing a problem, at least go and say these are the changes that we want. And there are people, and we hope we can create that change through ACT, and through collaboration going forward.
I mean, two very diverse perspectives, but I do think that they both have a lot of food for thought for both ends of the spectrum. To try and close the conversation, and I promise, Abhiraj, it's not going to be a hard one, but I think you guys started with talking about how you're just taking tiny steps, trying to explore, trying to understand where you fit in the ecosystem and what you really want to do. How would you envision the role you want to play, let's say, a decade down the line? And these would be just broad strokes of scattered thoughts that you may have, but I just want to paint a picture for our audience today. How are you looking at what you would like to do, ideally, in, let's say, the next 10 years?
This was supposed to be easy, by the way.
Yeah. Retire on a mountain home. Abhiraj, is that making it easier for you?
I think at some point I would definitely want to, I don't know if it's a decade or or longer, but at some point I would definitely want to commit, move beyond flirting, I would say. Yeah.
Divya?
So for me, my role model has really been Ashish. And now Mohit, and the kind of work that he's done. I've seen Ashish Dhawan's journey from just the ideation, and in the past 15 years, from ideating something like an Ashoka University to actually building that out. And that's inspiring. So where would I like to be is definitely thinking about change. So thinking about changing the skilling ecosystem. Also, like I said, more women in leadership, and hopefully doing some crazy experiments, like how Ashoka was and like how ACT is, and making that a reality.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much
Thank you.
For joining us. And thank you all for joining ACT Summit 2023. We hope that you had a brilliant day and were inspired by all the conversations.